Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, beautiful people on this beautiful, beautiful planet we get to call home for such a tiny amount of time. There is no thought. There is no suffering. It is not there. It's there in its essence. So it's there. It's tangible. So you could, suffering is right there, in that gap. Now you can either go into that gap and suffering will be there. Suffering is right there, in that space. Or it's not. There's an emptiness behind thought, behind mind, behind ego. There's an emptiness there. There's a stillness there. There's a calmness there. There's peace there. But in that space in front of that, in this space here, which is right in front, that tiny amount of space, that's where suffering is. Now you can latch onto that tiny amount of space. Tiny amount. That's the only part of suffering that's there. Your ego, your thoughts, your mind can latch on to that tiny amount of space. Yeah, that's how much anxiety there is. That's how much worry there is. That's how much depression there is. That's how much fear there is in that tiny amount of space. But your thoughts and mind, ego will latch onto that if you allow it into that tiny amount of space. It will suck you in, and that tiny amount of space will become the whole universe. It'll become your whole life, your whole world. It'll encompass every single thing that you do, all because of thought, mind, ego. All because you've allowed your thoughts, your mind, your ego, all the same thing, to be sucked in to that tiny amount of space. That tiny amount of space becomes everything by one thought. If you don't allow your thoughts to go into that space, if you don't allow your ego, your mind to get sucked into that space, there is no suffering. Doesn't exist. That won't become any bigger. That space there will not become the world. It will not become everything that you do. It won't consume your mind. It won't consume your thoughts. It won't consume your ego. It won't be in any interaction that you have with anybody. It won't be thinking about what's going to happen before you go into a situation. There'll be zero thought after you've been in a situation, which is massive. And the only thing there in that moment, in this moment as I sit here, there is nothing else happening around me. I couldn't give a shit about anything or anybody, because it's irrelevant. The only way I can ever give a shit if I come into mind, if I come into thought, if I come into ego. There is no fear there. There is no worry there. There is no anxiety. There is nothing there. All that is generated through thought. It's all generated through mind, through ego. If that isn't there, there is no suffering. I ain't interested in what is happening anywhere around me, in this room, outside. It becomes irrelevant. You don't give a fuck. And that isn't being arrogant. It's being that you've done the fucking work. Be proud of yourself. That you've spent years and years and years doing the work, guys. If you're at this point where you've realised that you're not the thoughts, don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. They're on their own journeys. They've got to come to that realisation themselves. Some people don't. Some people spend their whole lives till the day they die living from mind, living from thought, living from ego. The whole lives. So if you've done the work to wake up to the fact that you're not the thoughts, don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. You've done the work. You've put that work in. Be proud of yourself for doing the work. That is when they say, don't dim your light for anybody else. But you can only do that once you're awakened, once you've woken up to the fact that you're not the thoughts in your head, then do not dim your light from that space. Don't bring yourself down to other people's frequencies. Don't bring yourself down to judging others. Don't bring yourself down to fear. Don't bring yourself into anxiety, into depression, into worry. They don't exist, and we know that on this page. We know that it doesn't exist. They're just thoughts that appear out of nowhere, just like your heart beats and your lungs breathe. There is nothing happening. It just appears out of nowhere. So never dim your light. Once you are aware of that, never bring yourself down. Never dim your light. That's what it means by not dimming your light. Shine bright in that awareness that you're no thoughts. You're not your mind. You're not your ego. There is nothing there. There is nothing to fear. So in that tiny amount of space where you could get sucked in, you could quite easily get sucked into that space, and that becomes your whole world. In that moment where that could happen, where you're about to go into thought, or you've gone down that rabbit hole a little bit, you're into thought a little bit, you're down there. You've become aware of it. It's coming right. Oh, fuck me, I'm into thought a little bit. Don't panic. Let it be your intention there in that moment to let go of thought. No mind. There is nothing there. It's just peace. It's quiet. It's aliveness. Once you've done that, once you've quietened your mind, then look about. Look at the aliveness that is in that moment without thought. That is a state that everybody, if you're on a spiritual path, that everybody's trying to attain. So you can go to breathwork sessions, you can spend thousands of pounds on retreats, you can do cool water therapy, whatever it might be. You can spend the rest of your life on that hamster wheel of doing this, of doing that. Well, I'll go to this retreat. I'll spend $5,000 on this retreat. That'll sort me out. That'll sort whatever I need to sort out. So you go to that, and then you find that cold water therapy helps. So right, that retreat that I went to, that I was good for about fucking 3 weeks there. So I'm gonna go to this retreat, but they do cool water plunges as well. So I'll go and do that one. I'll spend fucking $2,000 on this one. Go and do that. But that lasted fucking 3 weeks as well, didn't it? Right, so I need to do something else. So I was doing that. What happens if I start doing breath work at home? If I do that every day, then that'll sort me out. No. None of it will ever work. So it'll work for a period of time, and you'll feel good for a period of time. You will. But as soon as that starts to come back online, and you might go to these retreats, and you might go to these breathwork sessions, and you feel something, but nothing really shifts. You're still in the same vibration. You're stuck here. You're stuck in thought. You're stuck in mind. You're stuck in ego. You will never break that cycle. You will go to retreats. You will go to breathwork sessions. You'll go to meditations all your life. Never breaking the pattern of no thought, of no mind, of no ego. Suffering ends at the end of thought. There is no suffering there. So you can go to all these retreats, you can go to all these sessions, you can do whatever you want. You're going to suffer if you're stuck in thought. Now that doesn't mean that you never think. There's two parts of the brain. So take your mind up to the moon. Think about the craters on the moon. Think about how it shines at night time. That's your analytical mind. That's the mind that you want to use to learn. That you want to use to do your work when you're working, whatever it might be. It's the other part of the mind, the emotional mind, that just generates thoughts on its own. And you only become aware of this, the separation between the two, is by sitting in silence. Fuck guided meditations. They're good. for calming stuff down, but you're still stuck in thought. They're still guiding you through it, aren't they? So you're still stuck in thought while you're doing it. Sit in silence, even just for 5 minutes. Perfect time is before you go to bed. And watch. If you're brave enough to do this, it'll change your life. I am telling you now, it will change your life. 5 minutes before bed, sit in complete silence. Preferably just before you go to sleep. So you're lying down in your bed and watch your fucking mind take off. Watch how many of those shitty, nasty thoughts pop in out of nowhere. But be aware of how many of them thoughts would have popped in. How many of them would you acted upon the day after? Or a week later? Or somebody you've had an interaction with that day, or whatever it might be. It might be somebody you've had an interaction with fucking 20 years ago. That's how thoughts just develop. It's just past programming, past conditioning. That's all thoughts are. That's all the emotional mind does. It just regurgitates shit from the past. That's all it does. Sit, watch that mind take over. Watch those thoughts come up. That's the awareness. Watch those thoughts come up. And then be aware of how many thoughts you would have acted upon. From a thought that appears out of nowhere. Just like your heart beats and your lungs breathe. It's just another appliance in the body that is supposed to think thoughts. They just appear out of nowhere. How many of them thoughts would you have acted upon? Thoughts that appear. A lot. You would have gone down that rabbit hole of having a thought just before you go to sleep. I don't know, it could have been Dominic. I seen Dominic the other week walking down the street. And I had a thought. I had an encounter with him. So that thought that I've had that situation with X person, and that thought has popped into my head before I go to sleep. Boom, it's just coming out of nowhere. I've then gone down that rabbit hole of thinking. I'm in it. I'm reliving it. It's all coming from thought. It's not reality, is it? It's just appearing out of nowhere. You're sucked in. You're having thought after thought after thought. Right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to fucking tell him next time I see him. I'm going to speak my mind, wherever it might be. You're suffering, aren't you? You're suffering just before you go to sleep. But that happens continuously throughout the day in people's lives. They're constantly suffering because they're stuck in thought. Suffering ends at the end of thought. So you get into all that dialogue in your head. You go out the day after. You see Dom walking down the street. You're stuck in thought, even before you've encountered this guy. So you're suffering before you even make contact with him. And then he goes to give you a high five. How you doing, mate? Fucking hell, sorry about the other day. I was in a bit of a rush. Sorry, brother. I apologise. Fucking hell. So you've spent maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days, maybe 3 fucking weeks, maybe 20 years reliving something in your mind. And it's nothing like it, what is going to happen. And even if it is, it'll be nothing like you've envisaged it anyway. Them thoughts are just appearing out of nowhere. The alternative to that is to sit in silence. Just before you go to bed, watch that mind taking over, but don't go down that rabbit hole. Let those thoughts appear and just let them fade away. Some will have real power over you. And this is what I mean by if you dare to do it. Because some will come in that you don't want to let go of. Some thoughts are really powerful, really strong. I still have them today. Thoughts will pop in and it's like, fucking hell. I don't want to let that one go. But every thought is the same as any other thought. You'll become aware of this when you sit in that silence. No thought is different to any other thought. They're all just regurgitated shit from the past. None of it means anything. Those thoughts could well just be saying, blah, 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 blah. They don't mean anything. They can only mean something if I go into my own thoughts, if I go into my own mind, into my own ego. They only become real through thought. So if I have that initial thought that pops in, and I go down that rabbit hole of thought, it's become real, hasn't it? If you let go of that initial thought, it can never materialise into your life. It doesn't become reality. There is no suffering there. You won't suffer. There is no thought. So that the next time you go out, the next time you go see Dom or whatever it might be walking down the street, you've not had the thoughts before. You're not having any thoughts when you go up to Dom. You interact with Dom, and if Dom's a dick, Dom's a dick. Fuck it. It doesn't mean anything. You're not in your head. You're not in your thoughts. You're not in your mind. It's not about what anyone else is doing. It's about ending suffering for you. It's about letting go of mind, letting go of ego, letting go of thought for you. So you don't suffer. And then maybe once you realise this, then you can go and pass that message on to other people. That this is how you end your suffering. By giving up thought, dying to your ego. Ego, thought, mind, all the same thing. So the next time you go up to Dom in the street, you're not in thought. You're just pure awareness, pure aliveness in that moment. If Dom's a dick, Dom tells you to fuck off. Dom, you fucking wanker, whatever it might be. Doesn't matter, does it? The only way that can ever affect you is then you go into thought again. So you leave that situation, you let Dom be where he's at. If I believe what you believe, Dom, I'd be behaving in exactly the same way. If I was my thoughts, my mind, my ego, I'd be behaving as Dom's behaving. I'd be telling me to fuck off as well. I would. But I'm not. We're living in different worlds. I know that I'm not the thoughts. I know that I'm not the mind. I know that I'm not the ego. So Dom can do whatever the fuck he wants, can't he? As long as I don't go into my own thought. It only becomes real if I go to my own thought. So that happens in every single situation. If you went outside and told somebody to fuck off and called him a wanker right to the face, it's going to affect him, innit? Why? Why would that affect you? What does it matter? It's because you're stuck in thought. You're still not aware that you're not the thoughts in your head. You're not the mind, you're not the ego. Somebody come up to me in the street and told me to fuck off and call me a wanker. There might be a reaction there. But I know that the only way that can ever affect me is if I go into my own thoughts. If I go into my own mind and into my own ego about it. No one can ever make me suffer. Because I don't suffer myself. I can only suffer through thought. There is only anxiety there through thought. There is only worry there through thought. There is only fear there through thought. There is only depression there through thought. There is only negativity there through thought. If that isn't there, there's no thought, they don't exist. They do not exist. With no thought. So if I end my suffering, if I do my own work, I've spent years learning this stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's not something that you just suddenly become awakened to. A spiritual journey is just that. It's a journey. It's a journey of awakening, to wake up from the sleep that the majority of the ego population are in. The fast asleep, just not aware that they're not the thoughts. Living in that rat race, living in that hamster wheel. Thought after thought after thought of negativity, of fear, of anxiety, of depression, of worry. And none of it ever has been, ever can be, and ever will be fucking real. It's made up thoughts coming from past conditioning, past programming. So if I do the work, you spend X amount of years doing the work to realise that you're not the thoughts, you end your own suffering there. There's not a fucking prayer that anybody else can make you suffer. Nobody could ever make you suffer. If you don't suffer yourself, that's the mirror that you're putting out into the world. That's what's going to bounce back. Nobody can ever make you suffer when you don't suffer yourself. They can't. Doesn't matter what anyone else fucking does. As long as nobody attacks you with a fist, then you defend yourself, obviously. It's all fucking shit coming from their mind, coming from their ego, coming from their own thoughts. You can't suffer. It's not there. So it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. You're aware of that and you're still behind that, behind the thought. And that's where peace is. You can do as many retreats, as many breath work as do them for the rest of your life. Be on that hamster wheel for the rest of your life. Or you can wake up today. Everyone can do it. It's just whether they're willing to do it. Are you willing to sit in that silence with all the thoughts that you've done about the past, all the shit that you've done to people, all the shit that people have done to you? Are you willing? Are you willing to sit in that silence? Let them thoughts come up to be liberated. That's where liberation is. It's there, in those moments of silence. Let them come up, let them go. And what you'll realise when them thoughts start to come up, that every thought is just like another thought. There's no difference in thoughts. It's just regurgitated shit from the past conditioning, past programming, what Bob had told you, what your mum had told you, what your dad's told you. If I was to be, if you were brought up in a different setting, you'd have a different set of beliefs, wouldn't you? Different set of, if I was a nun, I'd have a different set of beliefs to if my dad or mum was a drug dealer. It's just programming, it's just it's bollocks. It's just all the past. That's all the mind. That's all the emotional mind generates past. So you sit in that silence, you'll watch all them thoughts come up. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Don't engage. Let them be there. No mind. Focus. If you focus in that 5-10 minutes of meditation, of stillness, in silence, you focus there, then you can push that out into the world. Then you realise that you don't need to think in situations. It doesn't need to be there. There is no thought. Because all thought is how can you regurgitate shit from the past and be present in the moment? You can't. If I've had an interaction with Dom's popular today, isn't he? If I've had an interaction with Dom, and then I go into my own mind about that interaction after it, and then I meet Dom again, how can I ever be alive and present in that moment if I'm stuck in thought? You can't, can you? Because you're in that moment regurgitating shit about a past situation that you've had with Dom. All that is just thought. If you stop that, if you have that first interaction with Dom, that interaction was shit, leave it. There's no thought there, is there, after that situation? Your suffering ends at the end of that conversation. Boom, it's done, finished. Don't go into thought, don't go into mind, don't go into ego. Suffering ends at the end of thought. There's no thought there. The next time you meet Dom, there is no thought about the past. About that last interaction that I had with him. There's no thought there because I've not had the thought after the first interaction. So you go into that moment alive and new. It's fresh. That moment is fresh. I don't have any memory of my last interaction with Dom. You can do that for every single moment of your life. Every single moment of your life is fresh and alive. It's new. The only way it is not new is if you go into thought, into mind, into ego. Especially after you've had an interaction with somebody. So important after the interactions that you've had with people, or interactions that you've had in a certain setting or a workplace. Leave it. Let it go. Come out of mind. Even if it is difficult, go and spend 2 minutes sitting in silence. No mind. No thought. And you'll feel that peace come over you. You'll feel that aliveness, Shakti, life's energy. That's where it comes from, no thought. You'll feel it overwhelm your whole body. You're not stuck in thought after any situation. It ends there. Suffering ends there. So then if you've not got a thought about anything about the past, every moment is alive, isn't it? It's got to be, hasn't it? Don't think about it before you go in. Don't think in the moment, no thought. Don't think after the event's happened, whatever the event might be. No thought. Suffering ends there. No fear, no worry, no anxiety, no depression, no lack. Fuck all's there. Does it exist? Just true aliveness in that moment. Hope everyone has a fantastic day. Namaste.